Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another video. My name is Evan Schneider, and today in this video, I'm going to be talking about a project that I color graded for Puma. Now, my goal for this video is to kind of share my process of how I color graded this, share some insights into what it was like to work with the client. Also, I wanted to share some, workflow stuff, and hopefully by sharing this stuff, you'll pick up some helpful information that you can use in your own projects, or just feel inspired to dig into your own projects and get better at color grading. So before I say anything more about the project, I'll just play the actual video that we worked on right now.
You're a go-getter.
You got this.
Focus on yourself, your passions. Once you're okay with doing your own thing, no other opinion matters. We're all about the bucket.
Hope you enjoyed that. It was a ton of fun to work on. It was directed by Lauren Crew and Haley Watson. They were incredible to work with, and I still love the work that they're putting out right now. The edit was done by Taylor Walsh at Cabin Edit. The color was done by me, and the sound design and mix was done by Mike Reagan. And I'll put a little screen grab of Lauren's post just so you can see the full list of credits. There were a lot of people who worked on this, and it turned out to be an incredible project. Now, I got this project through another connection I had at Cabin Edit, and he recommended me for the project, and I've done other work with Cabin Edit before, so I knew their producer. So a big reason that I was able to land this project was because of connections and just knowing people in the industry. I would say that most of my work comes from connections, from the people I know, from the people who know me and recommend me. I would say 90 to 95% of my work is through word of mouth. I can't stress enough how important it is to know people, to connect with people, and to be someone that people recommend in order to get more work and better clients. So Haley, in her Instagram post, she actually put out some information. So I knew that they were shooting on the Alexa Mini, and then they shot on the BL4 2-perf, and then SR3, and then a Bauer Super 8. So they were shooting on digital, and then they were shooting on Super 8, Super 16, and then I think maybe it's 35 millimeter. They shot on Kodak film stock, and they developed and scanned it at Photochem LA. Super 8 development was by Pro 8mm, which is what everybody uses out here. Let's hop into Resolve, and this is my project, and I'll be honest, this is a little vulnerable for me because I feel like I'm showing you my dirty room. Like, I finished the project and then the project just kind of lives on after that. I'll kind of give a little bit of workflow into how this all worked because I was working directly with Cabin Edit, who's handling all of the delivery to me for color, and they were handling the final exports of the videos. So if you go through this timeline, it doesn't match exactly timing-wise to what the actual Puma commercials ended up being. It's kind of nice working with a company like that because I'm not in charge of creating all of the deliverables. I can just simply focus on doing the color grade and making that look good. But I'm gonna go to the main timeline. And yeah, you can see here, like, it's a big mix of a bunch of different formats. Let's go into my project settings, and my timeline color space was actually set to Rec 709A, which tells me I was grading on the monitor. This was actually before I had the Flanders, so my color management style was kind of all over the place depending on the project. My output color space was same as timeline. And so that means I was doing all of my color management on a node-based level. So right here, you can see here's my color space transform. And if I go to like some of the film looks, that's a light leak. Let's go to a real one. This is 8mm. The 8mm footage, I just did a simple contrast and saturation adjustment. So this is the before. This is the Cineon film log from Pro 8mm, which I've actually tried to reach out to them and ask and research like what scanners they have or what color space they're working with. It's really hard to get an answer and to figure it out. Even the scanner website doesn't really give much info. So your best bet here is to just add contrast and saturation and then push it around until you think it looks good. The 35mm scans, I was setting the input gamma to Cineon film log. And then the 16mm scans, I was using Rec 2020 Cineon film log. Which I thought, looked best. But again, color management on this one is all over the place. The most important thing to me was that it looked good and the vibe was right. So this was my hero shot. I really wanted to make this shot shine. So I think I'll just do a little breakdown of this one. This is wide gamut 3, Arri Log C3 to Rec 709A. And then I did a kind of primary adjustment to bring it down. This node wasn't doing anything, just empty. This node, just a little bit of a curves adjustment, brought the shadows, created a little toe on the shadows and brought up the midtones, highlights, created a soft roll off there. This one, I brought in some saturation, and then I did a hue versus hue curve and a hue versus sat. Brought down the green tones, pushed them a little bit cooler, and then pushed the blues, pushed the skin a little bit up. And then, let's see, this was face refinement, so I wanted to bring her eyes up and make those really shine. You can see they're kind of in the shadows here, so bringing those up really helps. And then another bump up, just overall globally. I'm pretty sure I used, curves, and then saturation 49. So this is before, and this is after. So before and after. And this is Rec 709, and then this is the grade. So yeah, that one was a really fun one. This one was really cool. Kind of the same thing, actually. I had a flowers adjustment. So here, let's go log. This is wide gamut 3, Arri Log C3. Brought down the exposure, curves. That brings in the warmth of her skin tone really nicely. A bump up, and then I actually wanted the flowers to be kind of like a reddish tone because I thought it created a really nice color contrast against the green leaves here. And those flowers are like classic LA flowers. This one is, this is on the Alexa. It was just a crazy looking lens. So yeah, log C3, brought down the exposure, contrast, and then just warmed up the highlights to be kind of greenish. This one, you can really see the flower adjustment. So this is before and this is after. So just brought down that pink, turned it a little bit red. This is the 16 millimeter before and after. So I wanted this to match kind of this scene with the Alexa footage. So I already had a reference that I used the Alexa footage for. So this is Rec 2020 Cineon film log. Let's go here. And then brought up the exposure on this node using offset. And then this node just did some more color adjustments to get closer. This node, more color adjustments to get even closer. This node added some contrast and then flower adjustment there to kind of bring in some density into the reds. So yeah, that one came a long way. And I think it matches the Alexa pretty nice. This one has pretty much the same grade too. I wanted these to feel like really vibrant, but still really filmic. So generally I was pushing the highlights pretty like greenish, warmish, green, yellowish, to kind of sell that film vibe. This is CST, offset, contrast, another adjustment, and then blue nails. I wanted her blue nails to really pop. And so this one, I just did a hue versus hue and hue versus sat. I really pushed the saturation of the curves. And then brought up the luminance a little bit. And that's it. I didn't use any qualifiers for that because there wasn't really any of those tones in the image. Like you can see it's pretty clean on that hue. So I was able to push it really, really quickly and really easily. This scene was pretty blue. So CST, and then warmed it up a little bit with my primary. That one is doing a lot of heavy lifting. That's a contrast and pivot adjustment with some lift gamma gain wheels. This is a skin adjustment. That's just bringing the saturation down a little bit. And then this one is kind of bringing those orange tones out of her skin to bring it back to a bit more of a natural spot. CST. This is an offset. Contrast and pivot. Saturation. These are some adjustment nodes. Bringing those blue tones down really helped. I increased the saturation, brought down the luminance, and adjusted the hue of the blue tones a little bit. And that just balances her skin tone really well. And then bringing down the orange in her skin. Yeah, and then nighttime stuff. This was all shot on film too. I kind of just leaned into the noise because it was shot on 16 millimeter. But this has a CST and then a primary adjustment, contrast and pivot to keep the noise floor where it was at, and then just a hue versus adjustment to bring the red into her skin a little bit from the light. Whoops. Yeah. And then, this shot was actually really cool. We've got our log C3. This is our primary contrast. This is kind of my look node, and then a bump up in the middle. I'm pretty sure that one is, I think I had a vignette on there somewhere. No vignette. So that was that one. I was really happy with that when it came out. Yeah, you can see kind of like why it was helpful to color grade this main timeline first and then go to the other timelines and use this as a reference once it was approved. That was a good way for us to save time in the process. Yeah, once it was finished, once it was approved, I basically exported these timelines as a ProRes 4444 and sent them back to the client at source resolution. And Cabin Edit, like I said, their assistant editors would put it together, create the final deliverables, and then send them to the client. So, and kind of what I wanted to illustrate with this one and show is that the look was the top priority. I wasn't worrying about a fancy color management workflow or, working in a huge DaVinci wide gamut color space so that I could retain all the data. Now, I definitely could have worked in those workflows, but for me at the time, I was most comfortable working in a node-based color management pipeline. And my top priority, like I said, was to create a look and a style. Everybody was really stoked with how this one turned out. And I would say that it's some of my best work to date. And I think looking back, it's because I had a clear vision of what I wanted it to look like. I had visual references shot on film, and I knew that if I could get to those however way possible, it didn't matter what I did in my workflow. I knew that, if it looked like that, then it was good. A lot of teaching right now in color grading these days is that the pipeline and the, precise colors and working in a, funnel of color spaces is the most important, which I think is really easy to get distracted by that stuff and end up with a worse product than you would have if you just focused on what you want it to feel like and what you want it to look like and what your references are and what your taste is. Taste as a colorist is one of the most important things because without taste and without references, you have no direction to go and no amount of color management or pipeline is going to get you there if you don't have the taste. Even though when you look at my node tree, it's an absolute mess and, it's kind of embarrassing to show. But that's just kind of my brain in Resolve. And, this one's not even labeled. I can tell bump up is labeled because that was probably a note from the client like, hey, let's just bump it up a little bit and make it a little bit brighter and poppy. So that's what I did. So yeah, I guess the two most important things that I want you to learn from this video is that workflow is important, but your taste and your references are even more important. And then also just kind of how to work with a client, how to make them happy, and, how you can actually get really far with a few small basic steps in Resolve. I hope it's helpful for you to see like an actual project that I worked on. It was fun to kind of give you a breakdown of kind of my process and my thinking through it. And let me know if you have any other questions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.